Hello everybody and welcome back. I am Merces and today we're playing more 7 Days to Die. So let's get started. Okay, so it's currently the 7th of December. I'm in our Alpha 19 world. A little bit before actually Alpha, or just after Alpha 20 has not been released. And I'm gonna go over our Alpha 19 Horde base and sort of look about what we went, like what we did right with this base and what we did wrong with this base. So in this series we actually decided to go with a pillar-based design as opposed to the other previous worlds where we had a base design looking like this. It initially worked quite well, but towards the late game we found out that it just doesn't really work that well after all. So there's several problems with it. Firstly, it is intended to be a passive base design. Now, it's not gonna be an AFK base. You still will have to like shoot sets and stuff, but most of the work is supposed to be done by the base itself, which is why we have so many different types of defenses. First line of defense, of course, is the shotgun turrets themselves, stinging and shooting zombies. Next up, we have these electric fences. Then we have blade traps, and then we have spikes underneath the entire base. Of course, at the moment, the base is quite heavily beat up from the previous Horde night, but that is basically defenses. And of course we also have turrets at the top here for birds. So the problem of course with this different designs though is of course the fact that the shotgun turrets use an insane amount of ammo. They could easily use 15,000 bullets every single Horde night, or shotgun shells. In addition, we use about 2,000 bullets ourselves as well, shooting with mostly the M60, but also other guns as well. And the turrets themselves don't really use that much. It turns out that like late game, if you have a lot of zombie spawning, it just doesn't spawn vultures for some reason, so... Well, I guess either that or they just around the air and just forming up they might not attack. That might be also the case, I'm not sure. The second problem is that blade traps turns out to be somewhat expensive. Specific mechanical parts, they cost 8 mechanical parts each, and there's 24 of them here, so that's like 170 mechanical parts. So that with the cats we also lose some turrets. We lose about 200 mechanical parts worth of traps every single Horde night. Ooh. Okay. And that's quite bad. We have actually found out that we aren't actually able to really recoup that loss. We actually started with a quite decent stockpile of mechanical parts for just looting towns and stuff before we actually got to the problems here. But as of now, we do actually use more mechanical parts than we can really sort of farm in an easy way. So that's a problem. We of course also use quite a lot of electrical parts from like all the poles is destroyed almost every single Horde night. That's not too bad though, because we have several, like we have 10,000 of them, so that's not too bad, and they're also kind of cheap on that, so it's not too bad. The second issue is that the base doesn't actually have enough HP. And we haven't yet had a collapse, but there's been several hordes which we would, a couple ones we even cancelled because we were about to collapse, and also we have, of course, later also went down to 32 times Horde turn. So at the moment we're using at 32 times Blooming Cat and insane difficulty. I'm at game search 483. But of course the plan is to go to 64 times. Also we're using 75% Blood Moon damage as well. So that's another problem we just also have to fix. We just need to add more HP to it. We do have proper sort of like plating around the pillars themselves. So there is actually 5 blocks, 5 steel blocks, and each of them have 7,000 HP plus the actual concrete layers. So 12,000 each, so that's 40,000 HP per pillar, and that's actually not enough. And there's like quite low pillars here. So yeah, I'm not quite sure exactly. Well, I do know how to add on that, but that's another thing we need to do. The last issue is the fact that having stuff in here of importance, like for example the generators, like even the chests there, to be honest, but also the relays and things for powering up blade traps, is a generally bad idea. The reason is because cop acid and also the molecular explosions can actually pierce through the iron bars here and actually damage the stuff. And I try to protect them like this, it doesn't work. So yeah. So all of those things need to replace expensive traps, or like stuff here gets damaged, need to add more HP to the things. All of those things I will try to fix in the Alpha 20 base. Lastly, I guess we can manage to throw it in as well. I would like to redo the wiring down here, because it's not exactly that clean. It would be nice to just have it a little bit more clean, but it doesn't really matter. So all in all then, what is the actual plan? Well, I've been thinking about this for quite some time, since actually the initial plans got stuck, or like initially like we started getting trouble. First, of course, how to improve this base design as sort of a temporary fix, but also how to actually improve the base fully for Alpha 20. I knew there wasn't really much to do with this base, so Alpha 20 it was then. I've noticed a couple things which we can do, and a couple other things which we will do, and some things which maybe we should consider, but I'm not entirely sure on the details myself. Initially, of course, I did build a fully mock-up of this base in Creative before Alpha 19 got released, using the slippery slope design, and of course they nerfed that, so I just had to sort of throw something together at the last minute. I didn't tend to test it in Creative, but I think I'm going to not do that. We'll see though. I might test portions of it, but we'll have to see. So step 1. This probably sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but I'm going to add in another 4 turrets. For 12 in total, so 4 per 2 sides and then 2 in the middle, the other one, so basically 3 per side. Now, of course, that's going to actually increase the ammo consumption by 33%, which is kind of bad, but I don't actually intend to place shotgun turrets here. At least I don't think so. We'll have to figure out some things about that. That's going to allow 2 things. First, it's going to allow us to be symmetrical, which is nice. But secondly, it's going to allow, more importantly, to add a lot more traps in between there. And it's also going to allow the actual main base itself, like this portion, to be bigger. Because right now we're limited by the fact that the shotgun turrets have a bit of a range, and I think actually they can still walk in the middle here without actually getting fired upon. Which of course is bad. I still think we should use shotgun turret as opposed to SMG auto turrets if you want to use turrets, but we might just not use that at all. So I'm not sure actually how much larger the base itself will get in. However, the plan is actually to essentially just copy paste this base here, or copy this base and paste it in the center here. We're only going to have a single base in Alpha 20, which means that this needs to be also the entrance down to the main base. So the plan, of course, with that is we're going to have a 3x3 hole in the center here, which goes all the way down to the main base. And then around that, so firstly on this like layer here, we're going to have 50 pillars. And then on this layer here as well, we're also going to have 50 pillars, which allows us to basically use melee damage and actually hit them through. Now, that will of course throw off the entire pillar-based design, because the whole concept with this design is that the zombies doesn't actually have a path up to you. That messes up their pathfinding. So that of course could be quite bad, but just given how much traps we're gonna have, I think it actually will be fine. I don't actually think the zombies will be allowed to get into the center. And also random like sort of walking of zombies is actually a issue. It has turned out. So I think it should also technically fix that. Then, when that's sort of like in the center, the main base will be kind of same like that. I think I might make it a little bit smaller, but we'll see. Go down the stairs. Then we're going to add on more modules out here. I'm not quite sure exactly how many, but just sort of add them until I'm sort of satisfied with it. And they will be, I think, exactly the same as these ones, although... yeah, I'm pretty sure exactly the same ones. I could technically change the bars to quarter blocks, but I don't think that's really necessary. So, yeah. Lastly, and probably one of the bigger things, is we're not going to have any wiring in here at all. And this is where we might get into some trouble. I can already tell that rewiring it is going to be a pain, but yeah, we'll have to see. I am, of course, wondering if we should actually have blade traps at all, though I still feel we need them. But yeah, we'll just have to see. I'm gonna have more defenses out here, so maybe it won't actually... maybe the zombies actually won't get to the blade traps. We'll see. The thing about the blade traps, which is important to note, is that they take damage whenever they do damage. However, only up to a certain point. So at a couple hundred HP remaining, they will just shut down. They will basically break and they will shut down, which means you can just upgrade them with steel, or repair them with steel. But they're of course still vulnerable to zombie damage. So if zombies actually were to hit them, they will get destroyed, and of course then you will have to replace the entire thing, which in addition to steel also costs forged iron and mechanical parts, electric parts, and oil. And this thing, and to a lesser extent this, is actually quite expensive. This is just annoying to make. And of course this is also like, it's not insignificant for sure. It's not expensive, but it's not insignificant. So reducing the chance of that actually happening is very important, and zombies won't hit them because they can just walk through, so they won't actually like hit them at all. But cop explosions, cop acid, and also demolishers will, and that's where the problems arise basically. I'm not going to do active repairing on this. I've just found out from my past experience that active repairing just doesn't work. So the thing. Technically, of course, you can just go around and actually repair them whenever they're about to be exploded, but it doesn't really work. So I'm going to have to think about something for that, see if there's a way to actually improve them. But regardless, I will actually add them in, at least plan to add them in. So how do we plan to actually wire them? Well, from below. I'm planning to have essentially a hatch right here. Well, I'm actually thinking maybe like in the middle here or something, we'll see. Which is where you can actually poke wires through. Now, that is a vulnerability. Obviously, because it is actually a trapdoor down to the main base itself. But I think it should be fine, because I found actually out that after adding the hatches in the shotgun turrets here, even though they actually, or towers, even though they actually are able to get down here, they don't actually really do much damage from them. So therefore the plan is to extend the shotgun tunnels going underneath the entire base. Which of course means we need to figure out how to do stability and like that. I'm thinking about probably just extending the pillars all the way down. Should be working fine. We will still have a 2-block gap though, so that actually, like, the foundation still will be here. I found, of course, like the 4-block foundation we have is just way too much overkill, so it's not actually needed. We have a 4-block cube of solid concrete underneath the base, which is way overkill. We just need 2 blocks. They have been able to destroy, I think, the top one, but haven't actually damaged the bottom one yet, so yeah. Do that. And that, of course, will basically allow us to do wiring underneath here. Now, I might still because the shotgun tunnels or towers will be further out, I'll probably still have actual tunnels for wiring the towers here. So it'll be a bit further out. But we'll see that. Yeah, so it will be a bit further out, which allows us to put more electric fence posts in between. That's going to be a very important defense because they're quite cheap to replace. That's that. So that's basically all the improvements I'm planning. What about optional things? So we could add more shotgun turrets. We can add SMG auto turrets. It turns out that paper is actually possible to get in large quantities from supercorn if I start early enough with that. So that's a possibility, as it turns out. But yes, it is actually doable to like replace them, in fact. I would like to not do that though. So therefore, the other plan I'm actually thinking about, but I haven't been able to fully realize how to do that yet, but it's at least an option, is to replace the shotgun turrets with dart traps. At least kind of. Instead of making these towers round, I'm going to make them rectangular instead, so that there might be still like these two ramps here, but then 5 blocks out there, maybe even 10. And on either side, just have rows of dart traps. So that when you're walking through here, you will see a row of dart traps here and a row of dart traps here. How to trigger them is one of the issues. There are tripwires in this game, which I think could work. But I'm unsure if they work for like both of them. I'm also unsure if they actually work for, or if they actually get damaged. If not, pressure plates is another thing, but that's another issue that we just, like we would need so many of them, so that might be problems too. But that would of course at least allow us to use a relatively cheap bullet, so iron dart. It just costs 3 iron, so we can get like 300,000 in half an hour, so that's no problem. So, we could probably allow us to use probably maybe at least 100,000 darts per horde night. It's going to be before we're going to start really struggle to like replenish that. So that's an important thing to note. I think there's any way, by the way, right, to make them. Well, actually, that's right, because I'm unsure if this actually applies because there's a crafting reduction for forges I have. I'm unsure if that actually applies it here. I don't know. But again, though, I'm a little unsure about how to wire all of that, how to trigger them, and things like that. And of course, we'd still have the spotlights, though. That's my plan. Also, of course, the corners, I have no clue how to actually do with that. We would maybe need some sort of corner, like one going here and one here. The problem with then is the zombies which are here would get stuck here. So we kind of need like a... We need a basic path for the zombies which are in the corners here to go through. So we'll have to figure it out. I'm also going to add in more electric fences. I am actually thinking if we do that little ID here, right? With dart traps. I don't think there's anything in the way of actually adding electric fence post in the center here. So add one going along the center and actually all the way to here, because I think they will still shoot through. And also actually, yeah, so they should actually be able to shoot through still, I think. Which could be kind of cool, because I actually think the dart traps will hit them. I guess we have to do some tests upon that though, but that could be kind of nice. But yeah. I'm at least gonna probably like I'm at least gonna start working on the towers at one point, and then we'll see if I can actually use the dart traps. That would be kind of nice. We'll still of course add the spotlights, probably add the spotlights in the corners, I'm thinking. Well, we'll see. And things like that. So yeah. Of course need to figure out a little bit how to do sort of the main base thing. Another thing as well is I'm also planning to raise the horde base by 1 up, so raise all the pillars by 1. Just because I don't think it's gonna really matter if we do that or not. So I think I kind of just feel I should just do it regardless. But yeah. Another thing as well is I will be at least designing the pad to be 2 blocks thick. So up until the foundation here, I'm gonna have 2 blocks thick, and I'm gonna have just like a ramp going down. Probably just like wooden frames or something cheap. And then we can just add another layer onto the pad after if we find we need that. Because again, if screamers will be able to dig through the concrete, which they will of course eventually, they will encounter dirt. And then we're back to square one. So yeah. So that's that. The main base itself will be very similar to what we currently just of course copy pasted underneath the actual the Horde base there. However, I have actually found out that they've added a bunch more blocks for the sort of the arch blocks. So as of now, there are these like arch blocks, which I kind of feel really cool. So you can make actually some pretty cool tunnels with those. So you can actually have the tunnels sort of go like this, right? Which I feel is a lot cooler than the actual corridors we currently have. Which is sort of this design. So the actual, we have this like ramps instead. However, the problem with this is there isn't actually any corner blocks for this. There's only this arch type here. And there isn't actually any corners. That is changed in Alpha 20. So in Alpha 20 there will be the corner ones for all the types. So the corner ones themselves going up and stuff. I feel like that. So we're going to actually change from using the ramps to actually these ones instead. Well. So yeah, that's the plan. And then when you start to like go it from there, I don't really like sort of designing too much sort of stuff off camera and like incredible things. Really the way I play. So because of that, I will be I would just sort of more or less design them sort of as we go, pretty much. But I will of course have thinking quite a lot about it up front though. So yeah. Anyways though, this is the last episode from Alpha 19. I'm actually not gonna go and take a backup of this world. Check it on an external hard drive. Clean out the other backups we have and stuff like that. We're going to completely uninstall 7DaysToDie, clean up all of the folders and things we need. All that stuff, all the save files and that. Wipe everything related to 7DaysToDie. I'm going to reinstall it with Alpha 20. And then just gonna jump straight in, create a brand new random gen world. And yeah, I'm actually super excited, so that's why I rushed this episode a little bit, so I can just get straight into Alpha 20. So as of course right now, this is the last episode of Alpha 19 I record, but it's not the last one I will be releasing, because I will be releasing this of course right before I start working on the Horde base in Alpha 20. I still have at this moment about 13 episodes pre-recorded of Alpha 19, so I'll be releasing those after it, all the way up to day 116. But yeah. Anyways though, hope you liked the video, hope you liked the Alpha 19 content on the channel. If you did, please leave a like and consider subscribing and checking out the rest of my channel. Anyways though, thanks for watching, have a nice day, and goodbye.